Good afternoon. We'll call this meeting to order. Our moment of silence and the pledge will be led by Mr. Norman.
Thank you. All who are able, please stand and salute the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I see Commissioner Evelyn Gill in the crowd. Thank you for being here. Do we have any other elected officials? Okay, thank you for being here, Ms. Gill. Board members, you have received an email containing a link to a survey regarding our annual workshop. Please take a few minutes to provide feedback as soon as you can do that, and we'll review that at our quarterly work session, which will be held in the small assembly room on Wednesday, October 30th. We're going to hold that in the small assembly room just so that we can have, hopefully, that will make our discussion easier and more productive. But we will begin at our regular time at 5 o'clock. So that'll be on Wednesday, October 30th. Our next policy review meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, October 23rd at 1:30. An agenda packet will be distributed in the next few days. Also, board members, just a reminder that item 8C5 regarding an agreement with Carson Newman University was withdrawn, and item 11G regarding the relocation of the KCS central offices was deferred. Do we have any other requested changes to the agenda? Ms. Owen?
Yes, I would like to request deferring item 11F, which is the transfer of the Sammy Hill property. And I would like to ask that the law department take a look at the MOU. Did I say the wrong number? And add language to allow that should never be a private school or a charter school.
Okay. Do we have a second on the motion?
A second.
Okay. All those in favor? I'm sorry. Discussion, yes. You have discussion?
Yes.
Okay.
If that does get approved, does that delay anything? Say that it comes back onto the agenda for next month. Does that delay the process to getting what we need taken care of?
Okay. Mr. Dupler?
Well, thank you, Madam Chair, Ms. Satterfield. I mean, what I can say from our department is that, this is a proposed MOU between three governmental entities. I mean, the city and the county and the board. So we could make some changes to the language. It would then have to go to both the county and the city to see if they would approve, and then, or at least initially approve, and then come back before the board in November. I mean, as far as delays with regard to the project itself, I think I would defer to Mr. Oakes.
Mr. Oakes.
I don't think it would have any delay with the project itself. I think an amendment of that nature may have, some of the other bodies may have a concern with that, but that's something we can talk about when we get to that item on the agenda.
Okay, so Mr. Oakes, if we defer the item, we will not actually have additional discussion this evening.
I'm sorry, so that was the request, was to defer it? Okay, and then we can have separate discussion. This has been back and forth between us and the city and the county a number of times already, so we can have that discussion with the city. But I think from what, and the city's Director of Operations or Chief Operating Officer is here tonight and could be able to address that. But the city council may have some reluctance with that language, and the mayor's office may as well.
Okay, let's have the other questions, and then perhaps we'll have him come forward. I think Ms. Hill's light was on next.
I did. I had some concerns also about delaying this. And again, I don't know, Mr. Dupler, if you can answer this or not, but if it's even feasible to dictate what might happen to a property after you no longer own the property.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Hill, again, I think it would be up to the city ultimately, because the proposal is for the city to take over ownership of the Sammy Hill property. So it would be up to the city, and whether or not the city council agrees and the city mayor to a restriction on the property, because that's the proposal.
Okay, thank you. Did you have a follow-up question? Okay. Do you mind if I go to Ms. Owen, because she was actually next? I think I skipped you. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Madam
Ms.
Chair.
Owen.
My thinking is that this would actually be a more expeditious way to get this done, rather than us discussing the language and potentially changing it and then having it go back, because that would put it much more behind than if we go ahead and allow them to look at the language. There is a precedent set already with some property that we have transferred, and it is with Park Place Junior High School when it was transferred to condominiums. And on page 15 of their master deed, there's a provision called the Prohibition Against Private School Uses, and it begins by saying, no private school of any nature shall be permitted anywhere on the condominium property. And to be able to modify it, it further says that it would take a vote of 100% of the owners, and the Board of Education could exercise a veto, even if that 100% concurred. So we have already set a precedent with property that was changed into something else and is owned by other people, that property could not be a private school. So my ask is that it would not be a private school or a charter school. And this was briefly discussed several years ago when we looked at the property beside Sammy Hill when we surplused that property. And this same thought was brought up, and we were told then that there could be a provision put in to not do that, but that never happened. So that's why this is of great concern to me.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Babb.
Yeah, I guess I just don't like the idea of putting restrictions on a property, because we don't know down the road. I mean, it might be something that everybody thinks is a great idea today, but if you're saying something 15 years down the road, not knowing what's going to happen to the area, development, that kind of thing, and to just put blanket decisions, I guess I just don't like that idea, no matter what it is. I mean, it doesn't matter whether it's about private school or saying it can't be a gas station or something like that. I personally don't like having the restrictions on the property. It'll be interesting to see what the city says about it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, can we hear from the gentleman who's here from the city?
Yes, ma'am. The city's chief operating officer and deputy to the mayor, David Brace, is here on their behalf.
Thank you.
Hand something out?
Sure, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Russ and Ms. Horn. So I think what I just passed out is there's concern about use, and so I just want the school board to know that the tri-party agreement that has been developed over several weeks, and we're happy with it. The city is comfortable with it. We have committed to, the city, Mayor Rogero, have committed to replacing the loss of park space. So when the school is built on Lonsdale Park, we have committed to the community to replacing that at the Sammy Hill property. And so the map that you have is the document that Mr. Oakes and I went out and actually presented to the Lonsdale Neighborhood Association. And if you'll notice that area that's green, that's the Sammy Hill School property. And so we can't decrease the Parks and Rec amenities within Lonsdale. So the concept that we presented to the neighborhood and committed to was to keep the core of the Sammy Hill School, a historically black school, African-American school, keep the cafeteria and gym and some office space that would be owned and managed by the city's Parks and Rec Department. That space would be available to the community as a new community meeting space, neighborhood meeting space. It's got a kitchen. You could teach cooking classes or adult ed classes. We've proposed tearing down the 3 wings of the school because we need Parks and Rec property. And then we would work with the community to develop a plan to construct new park amenities. We envision that would include a gazebo like the current park, a walking path, 1 or 2 play areas, maybe for mid-age children and young children. And so we've made that commitment. The use of that property is absolutely going to be for Parks and Rec. I would agree with what Ms. Babb said. We do not want restrictions on the property, but we're committed to the Parks and Rec needs of the community. And frankly, we're very excited about, and I think we heard it from the neighborhood, that they're excited to get really what is a new park, a new space for community meetings, a new school, new playgrounds that would be open in the evenings and non-school hours for the community at Lonsdale Elementary. They're excited to see that happen, and obviously the rec center facilities built within the new school. So I feel comfortable that the concerns that have been, I've seen on social media, I think we've met those through our commitment for Parks and Recreation and meeting that at the Sammy Hill School property.
Okay, does anyone have any questions? Ms. Owen, do you have any questions for Mr. Bryce? Anyone? Ms. Christie?
I have a question. I don't know if it's for Mr. Thomas or Mr. Oakes, but if the other parties, if we do send this back and the other parties don't agree to that language, is there an alternative site for Lonsdale? I mean, I feel like we've put this off for so long, and, you know, I'm kind of worried about delaying that project.
We've not identified an alternative site that would be in Lonsdale. We've looked at some areas. We haven't seen any that are as suitable as the park property or that wouldn't require us to take property that's being used as a residence or a business. You know, we could go back and do that, but this really requires the agreement of all 3 bodies and the executive offices of the city and the county. And right now, we've got agreement between the school system superintendent's office and the mayor's offices, and we're at the point now where we're going to see if we can get agreement between the 3 elected bodies as well.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Ms. Owen?
No, I would just like to bring up a couple of things. It should be noted that if we look at the Lonsdale plans, we are also looking at shared recreation space that the city would be responsible for. So this assumes that the city is willing to have 2 recreation spaces that they are paying for within mere blocks of each other, and that they would continue that far into the future. So that's extremely concerning, because we know that that's unusual at best. Keeping that building as a rec space is something that we are being told they're committed to, but that commitment is nowhere in writing that will ensure that. And I think the refusal to put anything in writing that ensures that that is what that space will be and that it will not be something else, I think that says more about the potential for that property than anything else we could say. Thank you.
Mr. Bryce, would you like to respond to that?
Well, I'd like to clarify that we're not creating 2 recreation centers within Lonsdale. The recreation center would be within the new school, and our recreation staff would be there. We would relocate and invest in park space on the Sammy Hill property. So the school wings, we anticipate, would be demolished. We would replace, we'll work with the community. We anticipate they're going to want the neighborhood would like a walking track and a pavilion, but we'll see what they want. We're going to invest in the park amenities they want. The core of the historic, I call it the historic Sammy Hill School, would really be programmed through Parks and Recreation for meeting space, educational space. So the operational dollars associated with that will be, are reasonable and nominal. It's not going to be a recreation center. That's going to be in the new Lonsdale School very similar to what we have at the Christenberry model, where there's a shared gym, and, it's a very efficient way to run those types of facilities. So, but we saw the Sammy Hill opportunity for a location where the community could potentially meet, adult education, could we meet senior services through a nonprofit. It was a great opportunity, but we believe those operating costs are very reasonable, and we're committed to that.
Okay, Ms. Babb?
Yeah, I guess I don't, once again, I'm going to say I don't like having restrictions, just because I look at this and probably the city is not even for eternity saying this will be a park. I mean, I think right now, we're doing it for a certain use that is good for that community. And at some point, 50 years from now, we have no idea what the needs of that community are going to be. The city can't predict that. The county, Parks and Rec, the school system can't. And I don't like the fact that we're restricting it I just don't see a good reason to restrict it.
Thank you. Ms. Owen?
Want me to go first? No, that's okay. I'll go ahead. As I've said already, we have set that precedent, so we do have that. If you will carefully look over the MOU, you will see exactly how it's laid out with Sammy Hill and Lonsdale, and they are both in quotation marks called recreation spaces. That's quite unclear. And the bottom line is that if we agree to move this property without any restrictions, we are basically opening it up for another charter school that we will be paying millions for. So that's the choice we need to make. And if we say, yes, let's go ahead with it and not put any restrictions on it, then we're saying, go ahead, state, bring us all the charter schools, because here we're going to pay for them. Thank you.
Ms. Satterfield?
Yes, I see both sides. I hear both sides. And to Board Member Owen's point, I think you can look at this map and it's kind of clear what we're trying to avoid if we put something in, such as that language into the MOU. And I will say that I've heard from constituents saying that they are not interested in a pocket of constituents, not all of the Lonsdale community, so make sure that is clear. But I've heard that they do want to figure out a space for a park. They want their park to remain, so I hope that commitment does stay true. But I've also heard that they don't want another Emerald in their community. And so I think if we just lay it out there what the reality is and what we're trying to avoid. And Emerald Youth has been a great partner for that community, and they do great things. But if you look at this map, you can kind of see what Board Member Owen might be potentially afraid of. But I also see Board Members Babb's point of, we don't know what 50 years could be from now. Public schools could be demolished, and there'll all be charters and private schools. We don't know, right? And we have this language in place. So I don't know where to support this, and because I see both sides. But it has been a concern from some constituents of indicating that that community needs one school and wants to remain that. And this picture is telling of what it could possibly be. So, yeah, I don't know.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, so we need to vote on whether we are deferring this item. Mr. Dupler, would you like to weigh in at all? Or Mr. Oakes, Mr. Thomas, any other comments? Mr. Oakes?
Just one other comment, and having a relationship with Parks and Rec is not unusual for us. In addition to the agreement we've had in excess for 20 years with the Christenberry Recreation Center and elementary school. Both city and county parks and recreation use our gymnasiums and our facilities at some points in the year, every night during the week and on weekends as well. And they compensate us, for the use of those facilities, and our employees for supporting those activities.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Oakes. Mr. McMillan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to ask the law director one question in his opinion, since we were talking about restricting, not next year or 2 years down the road, nor 50 years down the road, but in a reasonable period of time, if the community changed and things changed and they wanted to remove any restrictions that we attached, if you took enough time, there would be a legal way to do that, or would there not, in your opinion? I'm talking, 10, 15, 20 years from now.
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. McMillan. Yes, there would be. I mean, so in real property law, when a restriction is placed on a piece of property, the current owner of the property, which in this case would be the city, could at some point go back to the grantee. In this case would be the board and the county, because the county would be the one actually transferring the property. But I mean, so in this case, the city could go back to the board and the county at some point and ask that the restriction be lifted.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Mr. Newman, sorry, Mr. Norman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It sounds like this plan has been reviewed fairly thoroughly, that it seems most everybody is in favor of the fundamental plan, but the objection here sort of hinges on an aversion to charter schools, and that can always be taken up. I mean, it's not like we go ahead and do this and allow the school to be built, that if a charter school wants to come in, it's always, there's going to be a vote about that. So we can do that at that time.
Ms. Owen?
There would not necessarily be a vote. There could be a vote, or it could be taken up by the State Chartering Commission. And even if we took a vote and we voted against it, the State Chartering Commission could override that vote and put that charter school in place. And they would be the chartering authority, but we would have to pay for it.
Okay, thank you. I have one question, Mr. Dupler. If a charter wanted to put a school on that location, do you know what the process would be? Because at that point, then the city owns the property and the county would not own the property.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I mean, well, so as Ms. Owen described, I mean, there's more than one way for a charter to come into existence. Because of a new state law, there is a committee at the state level that could enable a charter, or a charter can come through this board. So regardless of whether the city or the county owns a piece of property, I mean, the charter school itself would have to be approved through one of those two processes. And then, of course, the city would then have to vote through its processes, you know, the city council and the city mayor to allow that school to take over that property through a lease or however it's done. So, I mean, you know, so there would be basically two different processes going on. But as far as a charter school itself, that would either come through this board or through the state.
Thank you, Ms. Satterfield.
Thank you, Madam Chair. What's the language that I need to go ahead and move it to a vote?
Call for the question.
I'll call for the question.
Okay. So we're voting whether we are deferring this item until next month so that language can be added by the law department to add the provision that Ms. Owen is requesting, that a charter not be built on this property in the future. And then that would have to go back through the other entities at the same time. So I'm not sure if a 1-month extension would actually be enough time for that. So that's what we're voting on, whether we are deferring or not. Everybody understand? Okay. So do we need to take a roll call? Okay. Let's take a roll call vote on this, Ms. Coney. Yes.
Ms. Satterfield,
Yes.
Ms. Owen,
Yes.
Mr. Norman,
No.
Ms. Babb,
No.
Ms. Hill,
No.
Ms. Bounds,
Yes.
Mr. McMillan,
Yes.
Ms. Christie,
No.
Ms. Horn.
No.
That is 4 yes votes and 5 no votes, so the motion fails.
Okay, so the motion fails. Thank you. Okay, are there any other changes to the agenda? Okay, we have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Do we have a second? Okay, motion made by Mr. Norman, second by Ms. Hill. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, this evening we have a special recognition, and I'm very honored to introduce Tanya Cambray and Debbie Bowles. Ms. Cambray is the current East Tennessee Region Director for the Tennessee PTA, and Ms. Bowles is the Scholarship Chair for our Knox County Council PTA. They will be presenting some very special awards this evening. And did I read that part? Did you want me to read that part? All right, ladies, take it away. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you. I'm very honored to be here along with Ms. Debbie Bowles to present these 2 awards. We're going to start with the award from Tennessee PTA for the Outstanding School Board Member. This award is given to one school board member in the entire state of Tennessee. And for this past school year, it is been awarded to Ms. Virginia Babb. Okay, and the second award that we have tonight is the Tennessee PTA Life Achievement Award. This award is the highest honor that you can receive from the Tennessee PTA. And for this person, I want to just take just a second, and personally, I can vouch for, I appreciate the amount of wisdom and the encouragement and just being there that this person has offered. I look up to her greatly, and I am very, very excited to present this to Ms. Terry Hill.
Ms. Hill, before you go too far, ladies, thank you so much for being here this evening. Before we let Ms. Hill go, I wanted to, on behalf of the board, take this opportunity to sincerely thank you for your service as our chair for the 2018-19 school year and the countless hours that you committed to staff and families and the community across Knox County, as well as the state of Tennessee. And we wanted to thank you and just let you know that your service has not gone unnoticed. And we wanted to present you with a small token of our appreciation and our heartfelt gratitude. So if I could have the rest of the board join me to take a photo, that would be wonderful. Thank you very much, Ms. Hill, for your service. Okay. And tonight we have many of our wonderful principals here with us this evening, and I'd like to refer to Superintendent Thomas to honor our reward schools.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. We always want to take time to celebrate the successes of our schools. This evening, we're recognizing our schools that earned the distinction of being a reward school and to present them with their banners. This year, we have 17 of our schools that earned this designation. Reward status is a top honor a school can earn in Tennessee. Reward schools are those that distinguish themselves by improving overall academic achievement and growth for all students and student groups. We commend all of our students and our educators for all of their hard work last year. At this time, I will ask our grade level directors, Mrs. Julie Thompson and Mr. Danny Trent, to introduce our rewards principals. We will begin with District 1, and I ask that the board member representing each district please join me for a photograph with our principal, assistant principal, and school representatives. So thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Board, Superintendent.
Good evening.
Our first school from District 1 is L&N STEM Academy, and the principal, Jim Allen.
Our first elementary school is Christenberry Elementary School, Melissa Johnson, principal. From the 4th District, our next school is Bearden Elementary School, Susan Dunlap, principal. Our next school is North Shore Elementary. Current principal, Keith Cottrell. Principal, Brandon Pratt. Our next school is Rocky Hill Elementary, Tina Holt, principal. Our next reward school is also a school that has been recently recognized by the U.S. Department of Education as a National Blue Ribbon School, and will receive their official recognition in Washington, D.C. on November the 15th. That's Sequoia Elementary. Our next school is West Hills Elementary School. I apologize, I inadvertently skipped a school in District 2. So Ms. Owens, if you will come forward. We need to recognize Shannondale Elementary, Renee Rapika, current principal, and April Parton, former principal. Thank you. Now we'll move to the 5th district. You think she will? Do we have someone from Bluegrass? All right. Farragut Intermediate School.
Okay, from District 5, we're moving into secondary schools, and our first school is Farragut Middle, and Mr. Wes Edmonds. Also from District 5, West Valley Middle School, Mr. David Claxton. Also from District 5, Farragut High School, and we have last year's principal, Ryan Seeby, and this year's principal, Dr. John Bartlett.
I did.
Ms. Hill, if you would move up to the front. District 6 is next.
Ryan, tell Shannon congratulations.
From District 6, we have Hardin Valley Academy, the legend Saleve Reynolds, and the young and upcoming Mr. Rob Spees.
In District 7, we have Halls Elementary, Jamie Romig, current principal, and Mitch Cox, former principal. In District 8, we have Gibbs Elementary School, Principal Joe Cameron.
And from District 8, our last school, Carter High School, and Miss Angie Messer. Do we have a representative in the audience from Bluegrass Elementary?
will make their presentation at a later time.
Thank you so much. Thanks again to all the principals for being here, and congratulations once again. Yes, please feel free to leave. You do not have to stay. You've had a long day already, so thank you for being here. Okay, and now I would like to refer to Ms. Coatney for the reading of the agenda items.
Item 8, consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Hill, second by Mr. Norman. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item 9A, approve second reading to rescind Knox County Board of Education Policy J440, fundraising activities.
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Norman, a second by Ms. Owen. Do we have discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item 9B, approve second reading of Knox County Board of Education Policy J194, zero tolerance offenses as amended.
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Norman, a second by Ms. Owen. Mr. Norman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had some questions about language related to assault and aggravated assault. The point being that I don't want to give any latitude to misbehavior and certainly severe misbehavior. And so I'll take that back up in another policy meeting. So I just wanted to let the board know that that'll happen at probably not the next policy meeting because I won't be there, but the following one I'll probably bring it to the next one. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
10A, approve Tennessee Department of Education McKinney-Vento homeless grant in the amount of $63,000 for the 2019-2020 school year.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Norman, second by Ms. Owen. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Approve Tennessee Arts Commission student ticket subsidy grants for various Knox County schools in the total amount of $46,580 designated for tickets and transportation to arts events.
So moved. Second.
Okay, let's go with motion by Ms. Owen and second by Mr. Norman. Do we have discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
10C, approve Dollar General Literacy Foundation grant for Cedar Bluff Middle School in the amount of $2,000.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Norman, second by Ms. Hill. Discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
10D, approve Dollar General Literacy Foundation grant for Hardin Valley Middle School in the amount of $2,000.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Hill, second by Mr. Norman. Do we have discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
10E, approve Dollar General Literacy Foundation grant for the benefit of Richard L. Bean Detention Center in the amount of $2,000.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Norman, second by Mr. McMillan. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
10F, approve Knoxville TVA Employees Credit Union grant for Beaumont Magnet Academy in the amount of $500.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Satterfield, second by Mr. Norman. Discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
11A, approve budget line item transfers for fiscal year 2019 in the amount of $10,489,000.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Norman, a second by Ms. Hill. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
11B, approve budget line item transfers for fiscal year 2020 in the amount of $261,652.
So moved.
Okay, motion by Mr. Norman, second by Ms. Owen. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
11C, approve fund balance designation for maintenance vehicles in the Central High School Auto Paint Booth Project in the amount of $240,000.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Owen, second by Mr. Norman. Do we have discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
11D, approve transfer of funds from the Pond Gap and Rural Warehouse construction projects in the amount of $28,771.10 to the PPU construction account for utilization.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Hill, second by Mr.
Second.
Norman. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
11E, approve appointment of Renee Kelly and Ron McPherson to the Knox County Board of Education Collaborative Conferencing Management Team.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Satterfield and a second by Ms. Owen. Good discussion. Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
11F, approve memorandum of understanding with Knox County and the City of Knoxville for transfer of the Lonsdale Park property from the City of Knoxville to Knox County, and the transfer of Sammy Hill Primary School property from Knox County to the City of Knoxville for the design, construction, and operation of a new Lonsdale Elementary School.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Satterfield, a second by Mr. Norman. Discussion? Okay, Ms. Owen.
It will be brief, I promise. I just want to remind us of how we came to have a charter school paid for by Knox County taxpayers. Our Board of Education believed that if they did not pass that charter school and vote in favor of the agreement, that the State Board of Education would overturn the decision. And that was before we had a state chartering authority. So now, current times, the State Board has only 3 of those because it is quite a lot for them to be able to manage them. And so this past session, our legislature created a law that allows a state chartering authority. And our governor has already appointed 9 members to that chartering authority. And those members include a former representative from Knox County who was a strong charter supporter and a board member of Teach for America. So we need to keep that in mind when we are looking at this agreement. While I believe we have become backed into the corner and we have to make part of this agreement, we need to also protect our own finances and look at this in a way that allows us to maintain what we can for our students. Thank you.
Mr. Norman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to ask Ms. Owens a question about the Charter Commission. So do we know that, as the rules exist right now, that this Charter Commission could overturn the will of the local school board?
Yes. The original bill also said that they didn't even have to come to the Board of Education. They could go directly to the chartering authority to request to become a charter school. And that had some pushback. So I believe the final bill does require that they come to us first, but if we vote against it, they can go straight to the chartering authority, and the chartering authority can do that. We would still be responsible for financing that, but the chartering authority would oversee them. So we would have no control. We would only finance them.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Hill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Everything that Ms. Owens has read is certainly true about charter and charter authority. I just would encourage this board that to make the assumption that this is what is going to happen when in fact we don't know, I think is probably premature. Also, the fact that this past year, I know that there has been a lot of work that has gone on between Knox County Schools and the city, but I can personally speak to Knox County Schools and the mayor's office in assistance with extra funding to make this school happen in the first place. And one of the only ways that this was going to be facilitated was this land swap. Again, doing as the citizens of that community wanted, keeping the school right there in the community. I have a real concern about doing anything that will jeopardize that. And I'm very, very concerned about any type of a delay or waiting any longer after, as I said, I know personally that this has been in the works for months and months to make this desperately needed new school happen.
Thank you, Ms. Babb. Ms. Owen?
Yes, Ms. Hill said that this is one of the only ways this is going to happen is this land swap, and that is because that's what I'm talking about by being backed into a corner. In 2017, we were told that the land beside Sammy Hill was property that we did not need, that we could surplus that property, and we were convinced that that would be without consequence, and we discussed the possibility of a charter school at that time. 6 months later, we were given a report that for 2 to 3 years, staff had been studying the overcrowding issue at Lonsdale and the issues at Sammy Hill. And I asked at that time why we were never told that that was an issue, and along with the being landlocked at Lonsdale, because we could have built. We had the land. We had the land beside Sammy Hill and the land at Sammy Hill. That was plenty of space for what we needed to do. We were never told that that issue was being studied, that issue existed. And Mr. Thomas was not hired yet when that all began. So we were convinced to surplus this piece of property, and then later, 6 months later, we find out that, wow, that piece of property was very, very necessary to construction that we need to do. So yes, we are now in a situation where we don't have a lot of choice. We do have to do this land swap. I absolutely agree. We have to build a new school. Lonsdale absolutely has to have a new school. We have to do it. There's no way to do it where Lonsdale is now, but a lot seems to have gone on to put us in this position. We didn't just accidentally show up here, and that's of great concern to me. To say that we don't know what's going to happen, that's exactly my point. We don't know what's going to happen. And if we sit back and just trust everyone, as previous boards have done, I think we know what that did to Knox County schools. And we need to step forward very carefully. Thank you.
Ms. Satterfield?
Yes, I'm supporting this because my vision is the school, Lonsdale School. We need a school, we want a school. But I do want to make sure that Jennifer knows that I understand her concern. And if you go over into that area, you can feel what could possibly happen because of a complex that is kind of engulfing Sammy Hill. So it's not pulling out of thin air. It really isn't. But I do agree having this trust in the government bodies and working together as all entities, that there is a sense of trust that we're lending out there, that people are going to do what that they've committed to do. So I do agree with moving in assumption versus the concern, but you can feel it when you go out there in the Lonsdale. So I encourage everyone to go and check it out for yourself. That was a concern with the educators in that building. It's like we feel like we're being taken over, and so it's not an unheard. It's a message that's out in the community. So, but Lonsdale needs to be built. So I just want to put it out there that we're moving in good faith here. So take that as it is. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Satterfield. And I'll just say that I'm in agreement with Ms. Hill and Ms. Satterfield. I don't want to do anything that would put this project in jeopardy because we really must have the school built. And as Ms. Satterfield has said, we are going to, in good faith, depend on the city to do what it has committed to do. So, so at this point, is there any other discussion? Okay, can we do a roll call vote, Ms. Cooney?
Ms. Satterfield?
Yes.
Ms. Owen?
Yes.
Mr. Norman?
Yes.
Ms. Babb?
Yes.
Ms. Hill?
Yes.
Ms. Bounds?
Yes.
Mr. McMillan?
Aye.
Ms. Christie?
Yes.
Ms. Horn?
Yes.
That's 9 yes votes.
Okay, and the motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Coatney. And just an explanation for the observers in the audience, we went through this agenda very quickly. We also discussed this agenda 2 weeks ago at our work session, so that's why we went through at such a rapid pace, because we did have several questions on many of the items at the meeting that we had 2 weeks ago. So just want to make sure everyone understands that. Ms. Babb, do we have public forum?
Yes, public forum. We had Richardson individuals contact us, but we didn't get full information. So if they could want to still speak, we're welcome to have you in the future, but please contact our office and get all the information needed to get you on the agenda. And now I'd like to call Colleen Montgomery.
Hi, thank you for listening to me tonight.
Sorry, please state your name and your county of residence. Sorry about that.
Oh, sure. My name is Colleen Montgomery. I live here in Knox County. I have students who are seniors at Bearden High School and at West Valley Middle School. And I'm actually here to talk to you. I really didn't know where to begin. I do have some concerns about overcrowding at Bearden High School. I didn't want to start by sending an email or calling Carly. So I thought, well, maybe I should talk to you guys. So I want to say, first of all, that my children's experience at Bearden up until this year has been generally a very good one. But really, I got to say some things have definitely hit the fan this year that really made me want to come before you today and share my concerns with you. Because I really believe that some more rapid action is needed. I didn't see any high school construction plans in the 5-year plan. I know you have a lot of plans for elementary school growth, but so let me summarize the issues that I see at Bearden High School, and some of them are safety related. Some of them, well, the first one is that the kids can't use their lockers, and that's been the case for a good 10 years. There are not enough lockers for every kid there, so they have to carry their heavy backpacks with them to all of their classes. And even if they could have lockers, there's no room to open the lockers because the hallways during class changes are literally so full of people that the doors of the lockers can't be opened. The stairways are jam-packed as well. People are kicking other people's feet going down the stairs. People have tripped, fallen, gotten black eyes, excuse me, on the stairs just because the stairways are so jam-packed. The cafeteria, especially during the first lunch, there are 3 lunches. They don't have enough seating capacity, especially during the first lunch. There are kids sitting on the ground out in the West Mall eating their lunch, and I know that's a fire code violation. They're exceeding the capacity of the fixed seating in the cafeteria, and the kids don't have enough time to go through the food lines. They got to shove the food in their mouth, so quickly. Maybe they're not even eating. That's not good either. I do understand that in January they're going to be adding a 4th lunch period, but it's still all compressed within the same 2 hours of 3rd block. So everybody will have 20 minutes to eat, and that's not good either. And because the school has been gradually gaining population over the last several years, I believe this year some teachers who've had a break, maybe for a planning period or whatever, now have an extra class to teach. And some of them actually left the school this year because of that. So then the counselors had to scramble to reallocate students so they had a full schedule. And of course, that's an extra burden on the teachers who receive them, because a lot of the class sizes are now above 35 people, and that's extra burden on the teachers and less time for the students to interact with the teachers if they need to. So, just because of all the extra kids there. And I really believe that the guidance counselors are the most stressed people of all. I actually have a neighbor who used to be a guidance counselor at Bearden, but she had to quit a couple of years ago because of stress-related illness. So she's at a much smaller school now. And frankly, I think each of the counselors have over 500 kids, and I think the limit is like 250. So I think they're the most overworked people in the school, and I do really feel for them. The biggest issue I think that pushed me over the edge to talk to you is the parking debacle that happened there this year. With the new junior class, they don't have enough parking spaces, and they had this big fiasco where they had to deny parking passes to kids who didn't have any special activities, like my son. He did eventually get one, but initially the issue was handled very badly, and some kids who maybe had to forego club activities for a few weeks because they couldn't park on campus or had to find another way home. It was a big problem. I do have to give credit to the principal. She did reallocate some spaces. But all of these things speak to the fact that the school is overcrowded. There's no room to expand, to add parking spaces on campus, to add more classrooms to alleviate the overcrowding in them. So I'm here today to plead to you to, consider adding another high school. It's not on your plan right now. I would definitely like to put it more in the center of your radar screen. If you look around, the area is growing very rapidly. There's subdivisions and apartments popping up everywhere. So this problem isn't going to get better. So I just want to close right now with that. It's not going to get any better. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. And we are adjourned. Or do I have a motion to adjourn, actually?
So moved.
Second, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned.